tonight.
They told us to pack as quickly as we can and get out because the fire was like right there.
Prince Albert remains under a state of emergency as a wildfire threatens the city. Also, the province releases its plan for COVID vaccine second doses and a plan for kids 12 and up.
Reed again gets the call. He may be gone.
Plus, George Reed is a local legend, but he didn't just break barriers in football. His story is the latest feature in our Black on the Prairies project.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, May 18th, and CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thanks for watching. All eyes are on the city of Prince Albert and surrounding areas as crews are scrambling to stay in front of a fast-moving wildfire. All night, people were evacuating and trying to make sure their livestock and pets were safe. Reporter Dan Zakreski has been in Prince Albert all day and joins us now from there. Dan, tell us about what you've seen.
Well, Sam, what we saw today was a whole bunch of emergency workers. Now, that's police and firefighters, hydro people, all trying to manage something that's essentially unmanageable. Now, if you look over my shoulder at that big plume in the sky, that's 40 square kilometers of fire happening there. And trust me, it's going to go wherever it's going to go. Now, we had the opportunity this morning to drive into yesterday's burn zone just behind us, and it was astonishing to see how the fire moved around. You could see where it jumped the highway. There was, blackened grass in both ditches. Flames were still burning. If you looked into the forest, you could see everything smoldering, and it was just like a big fire had just gone through. And that's what they've been dealing with all day. They're watching the wind. They just know that the wind is going to push this thing where it's going to push it, and the best they can do is try to save structure and people and animals.
All right, Dan, how are people coping with all of this?
We had an opportunity to speak with a couple of the evacuees this morning, and they're really doing as well as could be expected under the circumstances. They say they wish they had more information. They wish this wasn't happening in a pandemic where they have to worry about COVID. But at the same time, they also know that they're safe. At least as of today, this afternoon, their structures are intact. They'll find out within the next day or two when they can return home. But I think there's just a sense of gratitude that it could be a lot worse. This is a big fire really close to the city.
All right, Dan, and what is next for residents and crews in Prince Albert?
Well, they're going to watch the weather. As Fiona's been telling us, we could have snow by Friday, and that may solve our fire problem right then and there. For the time being, they've sort of got their fingers up to the wind to see which way it's coming from. Right now, it's coming from the south, so it's moving the flames away from the occupied structures, so that's good news. But everybody knows it's still about 27 degrees out. The forest out there, the jack pine, the dwarf mistletoe is just bone dry. So they know they're a heartbeat and a wind change away from that big pillar coming back towards the city, and then we've got a different story to tell.
All right, thanks, Dan. Stay safe. CBC reporter
You're
Dan
welcome.
Zakreski live in Prince Albert tonight. From Prince Albert to back here in our Regina studio, our weather specialist Fiona Odlum joins me now. As Dan said, they are watching the weather. How is that going to affect what's going on in the Prince Albert area?
Well, I just want to echo what Dan said about the wind, and that is the big story. Will it be changing, and will the intensity shift? As you can see here on our map right now, in Kindersley, we do have wind gusts topping out at about 70 kilometers per hour. Now, this wind is still coming from the south. In the Prince Albert area, we're at 43. But as we move forward, we see that the wind starts to move north up towards Lloydminster and then across towards Prince Albert. So overnight tonight, we're going to be watching for those wind gusts coming from the south, 40 gusting 60. Sometimes when I look at this the wind map, I like to add an extra 10 because there is a little bit of a variation there. So it is going to be incredibly windy through that region all the way through till tomorrow. Once we get past that into 24 hours from now, we do see the wind coming down, but still really gusty up into that gusting to 40. Will we be seeing rain? I'm showing you rain here. This is a 30% chance of this actually producing any shower activity. The models that we've been running show not a lot of precipitation coming to this region, less than 0.1 of a millimeter of rain, Sam. It's not what they need to control this fire.
All right, thanks, Fiona. And Fiona, will have a little more on weather coming up later in the show. Anyone that has driven down a country road or tried digging in their garden knows our province is experiencing drought conditions. This is how things looked outside of Saskatoon today. The Canadian Drought Monitors lists much of the province as dealing with either moderate or severe drought conditions. For farmers, that's reaching a crucial juncture. An Ituna farmer says there's just no moisture in the soil for seeds to germinate.
Right now, that moisture is so deep down, we don't have any hope of putting seeds into moisture. If we did, they would never grow because they would just be too deep down. We might have to dig to China to find the moisture at this point.
Ivy says farmers are also dipping into their emergency feed supplies for livestock. She says dugouts are drying up, and that can impact water quality and make some sections of pasture unusable for cattle if there's no water supply. The provincial government unveiled more details this afternoon about its COVID-19 vaccination rollout plan. New details include the plan for kids 12 and up and those eager to get their second dose. Joining me live now is political affairs reporter Adam Hunter. Adam, we know those 12 and up. We knew they'd be eligible on Thursday, but what can we add to that today?
Yeah, the government gave a little bit more information on details about its school clinics, and we can tell parents and students that starting in early June, approximately the first week of June, students aged 12 and up will be able to get their vaccination in a school clinic. The SHA hopes that will be done by the end of the school year for those first doses, Sam. And we know that, as you mentioned, 12 and up will be eligible on Thursday. That means that anyone 12 and over will be able to get a vaccine before they're available in their school if they so choose, in a drive-through, a walk-in clinic, or at a pharmacy. And the SHA saying they're going to expect written permission in order for someone to get a vaccine. However, those aged 13 to 17 can self-consent by law in Saskatchewan to get their vaccination, but the SHA CEO is telling parents to talk it over with their kids.
Many of you have had yourself receive vaccines, and we encourage you to talk with your children to address any questions or fears they may have in advance of their immunizations. Celebrate with your kids when they say yes to COVID immunization and choose to protect themselves, their family, and our province, and joining hundreds of thousands of other Saskatchewan residents who've already rolled up their sleeves.
And Sam, the knock-on effect of this school clinics means the SHA will not be running appointment clinics in the month of June. Those will transfer over to pharmacies, but they will still offer walk-ins and drive-through options.
Okay, Adam, let's talk second doses. What do we know about how that will work going forward?
But as of right now and into tomorrow, those 85 and older can get their second dose booked. By the end of the month, it'll be 70 and over, and then by the third week of June, it moves to 45 and over. After that, it will depend on when you got your first dose, and we got a little bit more of a heads up or some details on when you can expect that second dose and when the ideal time is to get that second dose from Dr. Saqib Shahab.
Currently, second dose will start at 13 weeks, but that timeline can get compressed safely. And as over May, June, you may be getting second doses at 8 weeks, for example. And then in July, you can get your second doses as soon as 3 weeks for Pfizer and as soon as 4 weeks from Moderna.
Now, Sam, AstraZeneca, a little bit of an update on that for the 72,000 people in Saskatchewan who got a first dose of that vaccine. Shahab saying he expects that they'll have enough supply to provide everyone who got a first dose of AstraZeneca with a second dose. Now, unlike Pfizer and Moderna, the ideal time between doses is actually longer for more protection. They say it's 12 weeks, and those with AstraZeneca will be prioritized, and they'll know when they're available when those supplies arrive. Sam?
All right, thanks, Adam. Political affairs reporter Adam Hunter live in Regina tonight. If you're in Saskatoon, more Pfizer vaccines are coming to the clinic at Saskatchewan Centre tomorrow.
We have 18,000 pre-registered people. We've only vaccinated 6,000. So that tells us there's a lot of demand, right? So the walk-ins will be the quickest way to get through things. So people should be prepared to wait a couple hours. So be here early.
The doses will be administered on a first-come, first-served basis. Anyone 16 and older is eligible right now. There are 300 doses up for grabs starting at 9:30 tomorrow morning. This clinic is still in the first dose stage. However, second doses are being administered at other clinics for those 85 and up. Demand is expected to be high, so bring a lawn chair and snacks if you come early to get in line. As for today's COVID numbers, we have the lowest number of new cases in exactly 2 months in Saskatchewan, 129 cases of COVID-19, the lowest since March 18th. And that also drops the provincial active case count to just over 1,800, the lowest since the end of March. 47 of the new cases today were in the Saskatoon region, 22 in the Regina area. The SHA also confirmed 3 more people have died, raising Saskatchewan's death toll to 522.
Oh yeah, nice.
Just making all the golfers who had to work today very, very jealous. It was another scorcher in Regina today. Perfect weather to hit the links or to play soccer in the park with friends. But how long can this heat last? Fiona will have the details in her forecast after the break. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital GMC Buick Cadillac. We are your used car destination.
And CBC weather specialist Fiona Odlum joins me now. There is a lot going on with the weather right now. We just had that big crack of thunder. People, I don't know if they could hear it over the beginning of the show. It's interesting in Saskatchewan right now.
Yeah, it gave me goosebumps. I'm so excited that it's finally raining. I want to share with you this amazing viewer photo. Amongst the devastation, there can be beauty, and there was northern lights yesterday with the fire in Prince Albert. Jason Craven sent us this picture to us. Absolute beautiful contrast there. Thank you so much. We've been talking a lot about the PA fire. There's a grass fire in Saskatoon at the moment that crews have been working on. This is near the Saskatchewan Railway Museum. We're hearing that currently no structures have been lost and that crews are working on that fire. Yesterday was absolutely record-breaking heat. We broke 19 records across the province. Here are just a handful of the ones that really jumped out at me. Regina, you didn't break a record, but you tied your record from 1901, and that was of 31.7 degrees. Now, we have so many watches and warnings in place right now. It's a real tic-tac-toe board here. So through the blue at the top, we're looking for a snowfall warning, looking for up to 20 to 30 centimeters of snow through here. We have a freezing rain warning through Wollaston Lake. We have the severe thunderstorm activity warning and watches all along this stretch. We're going to get a closer look at that in a minute. And then, of course, we also have watches and warnings for a severe thunderstorm watch as well through the Lloydminster area. And that is going to start pushing a little bit east. Unfortunately, that rain isn't going to be coming towards Prince Albert. The wind has been the big issue. We're going to be watching the gusts as it increases overnight, and that's going to be our big issue for the forest firefighters through that area. But we do see it improving as we look into our long-range forecast. Now, here's some of that thunderstorm activity. I want you to see how it just cuts across on this huge line, and it's just a band of thunderstorm activity. It's been through Regina, so we're going to be seeing a little bit more activity, but as you can see, it's not a huge system, and it's going to be pretty quick. It looks like lots of areas actually have already started to stop raining in the city. You can see we don't get a lot of moisture from it either. Only 1.2 millimeters maximum what we're looking for. So not a whole lot in the next 24 for the south. We're going to increase that. Let's take a look. Moose Jaw, 42 millimeters of rain by Friday. 33 for Regina, 35 for Swift Current, 37 for Val-Marie. Intense, you guys. Here comes the snow. It starts later in the week. So by Wednesday into Thursday, 15 centimeters of snow towards Maple Creek. The rain comes quick tonight, folks, in the north. Watch for changes in conditions, overland flooding, and absolute reduced visibility. You don't just get rain, you get intense snow. 34 centimeters of snow on the way for Collins Bay, 19 for Key Lake. Look at that. Prince Albert still sitting at 0. We need that to be about 20, 30 centimeters as well. We'd love that a little bit further south. Tomorrow, Look at that cold front. It came through, dropping temperatures back into seasonal for 20, and then it just drops right off into the weekend. A very soggy May-long weekend on the way. 13 degrees for Saskatoon tomorrow. Seasonal is 20, and you see how it drops off. So very windy for us on Wednesday. West 40, gusting 60. In Saskatoon, Sam, that snow arrives on Friday.
I have no words. That escalated quickly.
Yeah, it certainly did. Please send coffee. I need it.
Thanks, Fiona. Both the province and the city of Saskatoon proclaimed today, May 18th, as Fred Sasakamoose Day. The late hockey trailblazer was honored during an invite-only ceremony at SaskTel Centre in Saskatoon this morning. The event streamed online for everyone else. Sasakamoose was the first treaty status Indigenous hockey player to skate in an NHL game. He died in late November after a short battle with COVID-19. Today, his highly anticipated memoir also hit bookshelves. It's called Call Me Indian. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break.
Why is the sky blue? And where does snow come from? Are we there yet? We all know kids are very inquisitive, and so who better to ask the pressing questions right now? I'm Peter Mills, and I'm hosting a CBC Saskatchewan Q&A session all about the COVID-19 pandemic. We'll be joined by clinical microbiologist Dr. Joseph Blondeau, and you'll be taking questions from elementary school students all across the province. We're going to talk to the kids about how their lives have been affected by COVID-19, covering topics like vaccines, masks, sports, school, and much more. That's happening May 19th on the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube page, and you'll be able to submit your questions by putting them in the comments section. So again, head over and subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube page to find out more details about the event.
George Reed is one of the greatest football players this country has ever seen, rewriting the record books and bringing the Saskatchewan Roughriders their first Grey Cup in 1966. But Reed says there's more to his story than touchdowns and cheering crowds. Life off the field was hard for him and for other Black CFL players. Jason Warwick connected with the 81-year-old for CBC's Black on the Prairies project.
Reed again gets the call. He may be gone. Touchdown!
This is the George Reed most of us know. Sprinting to the end zone, scoring touchdown after touchdown, helping the Saskatchewan Roughriders capture their first ever Grey Cup in 1966.
George Reed, he drives out beyond. He broke the tackle of at least two attempted tacklers before Gaines eventually pinned him, but that moves the yardsticks. Another demonstration of Reed's great power.
He's one of the greatest football players the world has ever seen. But Reed says there's a lot more to his story.
It was quite a different experience, and one that I look back on and, I kind of shake my head.
When he arrived in Regina in 1963, not all players were treated equally in the CFL. An unofficial quota system kept Black participation low. So Black players accepted lower pay. Reed and others fought through dislocated joints, severed tendons, and broken bones to keep their spots on the team.
Most of your Western team, all your Western teams, they didn't have any more than 4 Blacks on per team and everything else, and it wasn't very noticeable to me at first, and then all of a sudden it became real noticeable.
That racism extended beyond the field as well. Some Black CFL players would get death threats. Others would get calls in the middle of the night from teammates pretending to be the Ku Klux Klan. Some teams even banned Black players from bringing white women to team events.
George Reed was forced to live in a hotel for his first 2 seasons because no Regina landlord would rent to a Black man.
I tried to find apartments and so forth to stay in, and of course they were all vacant until they saw my face, and then all of a sudden it had automatically been, they had been rented. So
Reed eventually found a place to live, but only because he was now a famous football star. He says people who had avoided him in restaurants now asked for autographs. And he was also told an exception could be made for him to play golf at this exclusive country club, which at the time had a ban on Black and Jewish members.
We the Black people have acquired a sharper consciousness of the system of power that have oppressed us.
Around this time, the news was filled with the struggles of the American civil rights movement. Reed, who was born in Mississippi, was asked by a reporter if there was any racism in Canada. He decided to speak out. He said, "Sure, people give you the glad hand and pretend your color doesn't make any difference because you're a football hero. The hell it doesn't. Everybody closes their eyes in Canada, and then they don't understand how we can talk about racial discrimination in this country." Some teammates and friends were supportive, but he faced tremendous backlash.
I was kind of disappointed because I think that people thought that I was just running off at the mouth and none of this stuff happened and so forth and everything else. So that was a disappointing part about it.
Reed would star for the Roughriders for another 8 years, taking the team to 3 more Grey Cup games. When he retired in 1975, he had rewritten the pro football record books. 137 touchdowns, 16,116 rushing yards, and 11 All-Star teams. Along the way, he served as president of the Players Union, helping to crush the black quota system and ensure fair treatment for all players.
He volunteered for dozens of charities, even helping to found the Saskatchewan chapter of the Special Olympics. Coaching, cheering, presenting medals, speaking at fundraising dinners, and raising tens of thousands of dollars, whatever was needed.
I think that the things that I did and the things that I became involved with and so forth showed that no matter what the color was, if you need to do something to get something accomplished and so forth, you could do it.
Reed is now an officer of the Order of Canada. He's got his own statue outside Mosaic Stadium, and a street is named after him.
I think the contribution that I've been able to make to the province of Saskatchewan and to the people and so forth, that's probably more rewarding to me than what my football career was.
Reed is now 81 years old and has chosen to stay in Regina. He says he feels blessed, but the struggle for equality is far from over. Reed says he's proud of the black youth now taking action against injustice and racism, just as he did 50 years ago.
I think that progress is being made, and I think that we still have the way to go and everything else, but strides are being made.
It is Reed. Gene Gaines tried to body check him, but not before George Reed had accomplished the first down at the 20 with a 3-yard advance.
Fred, watch Reed jump over. Still trying to pick up that yardage.
Jason Warwick, CBC News, Regina.
And Fiona is back with one last look at tonight's weather.
Well, Sam, we've already had the thunder boomer come through Regina. Are we going to see a little bit more rain? Well, we could see a little rain starting around midnight, wrapping up at around 2 a.m. So it's not going to bring a whole lot of rain, just a potential little soak of rain there, and 17 degrees. That cold front starts to slide in. We're going to see 14 degrees by 8 a.m. and that wind gusting up to about 40. We are going to go to 18 degrees by 12 o'clock, and that's pretty much where we're going to be staying. Now, in Saskatchewan tonight, we're going to go to, that was really fast. Tonight, we're going to see a partly cloudy sky, and we're going to be watching for temperatures to be hovering around that 12 degrees. 1 degree by 8 a.m., and the wind gusts into the 50s. That's going to be bad for Prince Albert, warming to 12 degrees by lunchtime. You can really feel that cool air moving in, Sam.
All right, thanks, Fiona.
Yeah.
And that is it for us tonight. For the latest on the wildfire situation in Prince Albert, you can head to cbc.ca/sask. Glenn Reed and Fiona will be back with more local news and weather at 11. For now, we turn you over to the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's Game 2 of the Islanders and Penguins series. Thanks for watching and have a great night.